the children were to be given as a special treat to the same as Jack Borrow. Nicholas was not to be the part of the party. He was in disgrace. Only that morning he had refused to some his wholesome bread and milk on the seemingly frivolous ground that there was a frog in it. In older and wiser and better people had told him that there could not possibly be a frog in his bread and milk, that he was not to talk nonsense. He continued, nevertheless, to talk what seemed the veriest nonsense, and he discovered with much detail the coloration and markings of an English frog. The dramatic part of the incident was that there was really a frog in Nicholas' basic bread and milk. He put it there himself, so he felt entitled to know something about it. The scene of taking a frog from the garden and putting it into the bowl of wholesome bread and milk was enlarged at the length, but the fact that it stood out the clearest in this whole affair that presented itself to the mind of Nicholas was that the older, wiser, and better people had been proved to be profoundly in error in matters about which they had expressed in uttermost illusion. You said there couldn't possibly be a frog in bread and milk. There was a frog in my bread and milk, he repeated, with the insistence of a skilled tactician who does not intend to shift from favorable ground. So his boy cousin and girl cousin, quite an interesting younger brother, were to be taken at J. Bograph. Then that afternoon he was to stay at home. His cousin aunt, who was seated by an unwanted stretch of imagination, styling herself his aunt also, has hastily invented the Jackal expedition in order to impress on Nicholas the delight that he had just by forfeited by his grateful conduct at the breakfast table. It was her habit, when one of the children fell from the grace, to improvise something of a festival nature, which of the offender would be religiously debarred. If of the children seen collectively, there was suddenly informed a circus in a neighboring town, a circus of unrifled mermen and uncounted elephants, to which, but for their depravity, they would have been taken that very day. A few decent tears were looked for the part of Nicholas. When the moment for the fight, however, all the crying was done by his girl cousin, who scratched her knees rather painfully against the stop of the carriage as she was scrambling in. How did she howl? Asked Nicholas cheerfully as the party drove off without any of the elation of high spirits that should have characterized it. She'll soon get over that, said the sorry distant aunt. It will be a glorious afternoon for racing about over those beautiful sands. How they will enjoy themselves. Bobby won't enjoy himself much, and he won't race much either, said Nicholas with a grim chuckle. His boots are hurting him. They are too tight. Why didn't he tell me they were hurting? Asked the aunt with some asperity. He told you twice, but you weren't listening. You often don't listen when we tell you important things. You are not go to the gooseberry garden, said the aunt, changing the subject. Why not? Demanded Nicholas. Because you're in disgrace, said the aunt softly. Nicholas did not admit the frankness of the reasoning. He felt perfectly capable being in a disgrace and the gooseberry garden at the same moment. His face looked on an expression of considerable obstinacy. It was clear to his aunt that he was determined to get into Gooseberry Garden only, she remarked to herself, because I've told him where he's not to. Now the Gooseberry Garden had two doors, which might be entered, one through a small person like Nicholas could slip in there where he could vaguely disappear from the view amid masking growth of orchards, raspberry cane, and fruit bushes. They aunt had many other things to do that in the afternoon, but she spent an hour or two in trivial gardening operations among flower beds and shrubberies, when she could keep a watchful eye on the two doors that led to the forbidden paradise. She was a woman of few ideas, with immense power of concentration. Nicholas was made one or two sorties into the front garden, wriggling his way with obvious stealth of purpose toward one or another of the doors, but never able for a moment to evade the aunt's watchful eyes. As a matter of fact, he had no intention of trying to get into Gooseberry Garden, but it was extremely convenient for him that his aunt should believe that it was believed they would keep herself on self-imposed sentry duty for the greater part of the afternoon. Having fully confirmed and fortified her suspicions, Nicholas slipped back into the house and rapidly put exception a plan of action that had long germinated in his brain. By standing on a chair in the library, one could reach a shelf on which reposed a fat, important-looking key. The key was unimportant as it looked. It was the instrument which kept visibility of the lumber room, secured from unauthorized instruction, which opened a way only for on such like previous person. Nicholas has not had much experience of the art of fitting key to keyhole and turning locks, but some days past he had practiced with the key of the schoolroom door. He did not believe in trusting too much to luck and accident. The key turned swiftly in the lock, but it turned. The door opened and Nicholas was in an unknown land, compared with which the Gooseberry Garden was still delight, a mere material pleasure. Often Nicholas had pictured to himself what the lumber room might be like. That region was so carefully sealed from youthful eyes, and concerning which no question was ever answered. It came after his expeditions. In the first place, it was large and dimly lit, one high window opening on illumination. In the second place was a storehouse of unimagined treasure. The aunt, by assertion, was one of those people who think that things spoiled and used by consignment does endain away the preserving them. Such parts of the house as Nicholas knew the best were rather bare for cheerless, but here and there were wonderful things for the eye to feast on. First and foremost, there were a piece of French tapestry that was eventually meant to be a fire screen. To Nicholas, it was a living, breathing story. He sat down on a row of Indian hangings, glowing in a wonderful color beneath the layer of dust, and took in all the detail of the costly ritual. A man dressed in the hunting costume of some remote period had just transfixed a stag with an arrow. It could not have been a difficult shot because the stag was only 1 or 2 paces away from him in the thickly growing vegetation. That the picture thus suggested would have not been difficult to group chase eventually were the chain, and to hear the arrow was discharged. The plot of the picture was simple if interesting, but did the huntsman see what Nicholas saw was 4 gaping wolves were coming in his direction to the wood. There might be more than 4 of them in the hidden behind the trees, and in any case of the man and his dog were able to cope with the bear for wolf if they made an attack. The man had only 2 arrows left in his quiver, and he might miss with in shooting there was he would hit a large stag at a ridiculously short range. Nicholas sat many golden minutes resolving the possibility of the sense. He was inclined to think that there were more than 4 wolves. That means the man and his dog were in a right corner. But there were other objects of delight and interesting claiming his instant attention. There were giant twisted candlesticks in the shape of snakes, a giant teapot fashioned like a china duck out of the holes open break. The tea was supposed to come how do and shapeless the nursery teapot seemed in comparison, and there was a cork sandalwood box and packed tight with aromatic cotton wool, and within the layer of cotton wool were little brass figures, humpback hobos, and peacocks and goblins, delightful to see and to handle. Less promising in appearance was a large square book with plain black powers. Nicholas peeped into it, and behold, it was full of colored pictures of birds, and such birds! In the garden, it was the lane when he made for a walk with Nicholas came across a few birds, of which the largest were a occasional magpie, a wood pigeon. Here were herons and bustards, kites, toucans, tiger bitings, bush turkey, insects, golden pheasant, a whole pottery of unreamed of creatures. And as was admiring and coloring of the mandarin duck and assigning a life history to it, the vibe of his own sheer vociferation of his name came from the gooseberry garden without. So she had grown suspicious for his long disappearance, and had to keep from the conclusion that he had climbed over the wall behind the shadowy screen of the lilac bushes. She was now engaged in among the artichoke and raspberry cane. It was probably the first time for 20 years that anyone had smiled in the lumber room. Presently the angry repetition of Nicholas' name gave away to track, and a cry for somebody to quickly. Nicholas shut the book, restored carefully to its place in the corner, and shook some dust from a neighboring pile of newspaper over it. Then he crept from the room, locked the door, and replaced the key exactly where he had found it. His aunt was still calling the name when he started into the front garden. "Who's calling?" he asked. "Me," came the answer from the other side of the wall. "Didn't you hear me? I've been looking for you. The gooseberry garden, and I slipped into the rainwater tank. Luckily there's no water in it, but the side was slippery, and I can get out. Find a little ladder from under the cherry tree. I was told not to go in the gooseberry garden, said Nicholas promptly. "I told you not to, and now I tell you that you may," came the voice from the rain-rotten tank rather impatiently. "Your voice doesn't sound like Aunt's," objected Nicholas. "You may be the evil one tempting me to disobey it. Aunt often tells me that the evil one tells me that I always yield. This time I'm not going to yield." "Don't talk nonsense," said the prisoner in the tank. "Go and fetch the lighter. Will be strawberry and jam for tea?" asked Nicholas instantly. "Certainly will be," said the aunt, privately resolving that Nicholas should have none of it. "Now I know that you're evil one, and not Aunt," Nicholas shouted gleefully. "When we asked for Aunt's strawberry jam yesterday, she said there wasn't any. I know where there are 4 of it in the store cupboard, because I looked, and of course you know it's there. But she doesn't, because she said there wasn't any." "Oh, therefore you have sold yourself." There was an unusual sense of luxury of being talked to an aunt as for one of talking to the evil one, but Nicholas knew, with childish discernment, that short luxury would not be over indulged in. He walked noisily away and to a kitchen maid in search of Pansy, who eventually rescued the aunt from the rain-guard tank. Tea that evening was partaken in some fearsome silence. The tide had been at its highest when the children had arrived with joyful calls, so there had been no sand to play on, a circumstance that the aunt had overlooked, the haste of organizing her plaintive expectation. The tidiness of Bobby's boot had disastrous short effect on his temper that the children could not have been sent to enjoy themselves. As for Nicholas, he too was silent, an assertion of one who had much to think about. It was just possible, he considered, that Huntsman would escape with his mount, where the wolf is on the thickened stack.